Welcome to the Advanced Freelancing Podcast. Every week, you'll hear strategies for building your online service-based business your way. And now, here's your host, veteran freelancer, author, and TEDx speaker, Laura Briggs.
Hey listeners, it's time for another episode of the Advanced Freelancing Podcast. And today we're going to talk about a piece of advice that really goes against the grain to some of the advice that you're likely to hear out there, especially as you are first getting started with your freelance business. And that piece of advice is this kind of belief that, okay, I need to be completely unique. I need to be very special. I need to have all these specific things about myself to stand out in the marketplace. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. I want to welcome my guest to the show because I have an expert to help me dig into this. Belinda, welcome to the show. Tell my listeners a little bit more about you and the freelance work you do.
Hi, Laura. I appreciate you having me on. So my name is Belinda Weaver. I'm a copy coach and I help aspiring and working copywriters supercharge their income, create financial stability, and avoid career burnout. Because I firmly believe that the whole point of being your own boss is to create a job better than the one you've left. I've been in the writing business for about 10 years and I have courses and coaching that build skills and confidence. And the idea is so that more writers can ditch the hustle and burnout and enjoy the journey of their work. That's what I'm all about. And I'm Australian. I live in California with my pug who's at my feet. And I have 2 kids, a husband, and I'm obsessed with Doctor Who.
Oh my goodness. So I also own a pug. He is 4 as of tomorrow. So I am a pug lover.
Yay! Mine is 9. So he's getting on in years.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, before we had Frank, which is the pug we have now, my husband brought into our relationship a pug named Percy, and he lived to be 18. So may you have many more years with a wonderful pug because they are fabulous.
I love stories like that. It gives me hope.
Yes, they are wonderful, lovable creatures. So I think it's awesome that we have that in common. I want to dig into kind of the mindset that I think it's an issue for a lot of freelancers, experienced and inexperienced, but it comes out a lot for inexperienced new freelancers. And they start with this motivation of, I want to be a freelancer, whatever that motivation is, leaving a bad job, wanting to be creative, wanting to control their own schedule. They get all pumped up and excited, right? Because there's lots of stories out there of people who have done this. And then you promptly go, wait a minute, I don't have any credibility. I don't have any experience. There's a lot of people who've been doing this a lot longer than me, a lot more successful. And I feel like, so I run a nonprofit on the side where we teach military spouses how to freelance. And this is the number one issue about 3 weeks into our training program, a crisis of confidence. Every one of them goes, I have nothing but resume gaps and challenges I've experienced as a military spouse. Even if they have advanced degrees, long careers before marrying into the military. So can you talk a little bit about how you kind of get over that hump when you're a beginner and you feel all the excitement and you feel like one half of you's like, I can totally do this. And then the other half is like, no way, I'm never going to be able to break in.
Well, I mean, the feeling is real. And I think it's important to know that absolutely everyone goes through this. I actually didn't experience this kind of paralysis until a few years in because when I got started, I was thinking, well, I am not even a strong competitor for the people who really know what they're doing. So what I'm going to do is just quietly learn my craft and get good at what I do and get my marketing going and find my feet. And so for people feeling this sense of anxiety, know that the first steps you can take is to get good at the craft that you want to make your last career change and get the wheel going. Because if you don't get started, you're not going to make progress. But then there comes a point, and this is what really stuck me. It was actually 2 years in when I went, oh God, now I'm actually in a position where I can get choosy about who I want to work with. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to say yes to everyone. I wanted to be selective. And that's when the paralysis really hit me because I thought, why would someone choose me at all? So there's a lot of things you can do to get yourself started, learn your craft, get good at it. But then there comes this point where you think, what's special about me? And I think that's what I'd really love to dig into today because that's the second point where people can get paralyzed.
Yeah. And I think that we hear a lot of good marketing messages and strategic advice around the importance of specializing, niching down, knowing what your unique value proposition is. And that definitely has its place, right? Because it is very helpful to know what it is that makes you you. A lot of times, especially as writers, that's what we do for our clients. We're always pushing them to distill down, what do you do? Who do you do it for? What makes you distinct from your competition? But you argue that you don't need to be that focused into, oh, what makes me 100% unique and 100% special as a freelancer, that this can actually become a mindset trap.
Yes.
So can you talk about why that is and how we can reframe that a little bit?
100%. And whether you are in that mode of like, how do I even get my first clients? Or you're a year or two in and you think, how do I even stand out? We're taught marketing 101. You need a USP, a unique selling proposition, a key differentiator. We need an elevator pitch that says what we do, who we work for, and what makes us different. These kind of things are drummed into us. So I, for one, always felt that I would never be truly successful if I didn't have something unique about myself. And I started calling that the unicorn fallacy, where you have to be different or unique in order to be successful. But the truth is, when we buy something, we don't want to compare everyone on the internet, and we don't necessarily want the best in the industry. The best isn't always our favorite. So when we're thinking about how we position ourselves and how we market ourselves as a freelancer, we have to recognize that people buying our services want to know that you can solve their problem, that you have solved it for others, and that they're going to like the experience of working with you. And when you regularly communicate these in your marketing, you basically take care of a lot of the low-hanging fruit, which makes you choosable. So rather than trying to be unique, you have to be regularly communicating the things that make you choosable to the right audience. And that's things like your process, your passion, why you got started, how you work. It's things like speaking directly to your audience, speaking to their challenges, showcasing testimonials. And it's talking about not only your credibility once you have some, and that's even just one client, but it's also showcasing your personality. It's giving people those Velcro hooks that has them go, I have a pug too. We have something in common. And what a lot of freelancers do is they skip over these easy details to consistently share, and they stop becoming choosable.
And I think that for a lot of people, though, this idea of the USP versus what makes you choosable can seem a little bit confusing at first, because there is a little bit of overlap in some of these ideas. But I think you're absolutely right that most people are missing out on some really easy low-hanging fruit that they can grab to help explain who they are and what they do and why they're the right fit. Occasionally I come across freelancers who they're good at what they do. They deliver on time. They've been doing it for a while and they have clients under their belt, but they literally have no idea where to start figuring out, well, what does make me choosable? Honestly, I don't know why my clients, decide to go with me. Maybe it was just I was in the right place at the right time and I had enough experience that they felt like taking that risk. For the person who has kind of missed out on tapping into that context, what are some things you can do to start researching what might have made you choosable in the past?
That's a really good question. So one of the things I've always done as a copywriter is at the end of the project, I ask for a review of my client's experience. This is basically just asking for a testimonial, but I couch it as a review of their experience and I ask specific questions and then I string the answers together in the form of a testimonial. So if you don't have a lot of testimonials or you're worried about asking for them, this is a great way to start collecting feedback from your clients. You also get their voice of customer, which is incredibly useful for your own marketing. But one of the questions I would ask is, how did you find me? Why did you choose me in particular? 3 words that would describe your experience working with me. Now, I would ask a lot of other questions, like what led you to actually look for a copywriter? What was your favorite part of the service, or what do you like best about the copy? But I found this question of listing 3 words that describes your experience with me incredibly useful because when I took a step back and looked at all my replies, I saw the same words coming up over and over again. And that meant I had those specific aspects of my service delivery to start shining a spotlight on in my marketing. So I found people would say, it was so easy to work with you. So I shone a spotlight on my process. And when you do that as well in your marketing, you help clients and potential clients feel safe with you. Because when we're about to make a purchase decision, big or small, there's that little voice that goes, I don't know. Is it going to work? Can they really deliver? So when you say, this is exactly what's going to happen when we start working together from start to finish, and here's a bunch of testimonials from other clients, that makes people feel safe. And you could be up against another freelancer who has more experience but does not have those aspects in their marketing, and clients will choose you over them. And that's what's being choosable.
Yes. And I love that you brought up that one of your pieces of client feedback is that you were easy to work with, because that's one that I have gotten before too. And things like that, you may not immediately connect as, oh, this is the thing I need to market myself with. I need to say I'm easy to work with, or I need to hint that my process is organized and it's simple and easy for my clients, because it feels like an obvious thing to you as the freelancer. You might think, yeah, of course I'm easy to work with. Of course I communicate well. Of course I deliver on deadline. But when clients are calling that out in a review, that indicates one of two things. One, they had that concern coming into working with you, or two, they had been burned by someone in the past who didn't have that particular skill set or approach to doing business. And so it was very interesting to me early on, when getting that feedback of you're easy to work with, or I love that your work is always 100% original. I'm like, what? Like, I was like, well, isn't that a given, right? Like, I'm not writing copy that's going to be stolen from other people. That felt like an obvious thing I shouldn't have to call out. But sometimes those are the things you can lean into, and it might not be immediately obvious to you. And I love that you talk about asking for a review. I think that that serves two purposes as well, because I would take every one of those reviews and dump it in a Google Doc, one for my own customer research, and also to repurpose it into social proof and testimonials and things. But two, for mindset purposes. I'm a big fan of what I call an evidence list, which is the list of things that you look at when you're having a bad day, when you've had a client rip your work apart, when you're feeling like a fraud. Just looking at that document and going, oh yeah, here's like my 5 most recent testimonials. These clients were all happy. Whatever challenge I'm facing today is not that significant because I can overcome it. So can you talk a little bit about how once you lean into what makes you choosable, and when you did that specifically, what kinds of changes did you see in your business or in the way that you worked with clients?
Well, when I started my business, I wanted to be, in big air quotes, professional, because I came from a corporate background. I'd never run a business myself. I had never thought of running a business. I didn't know anyone who ran a business. So I was like, I am attacking this with professional and a capital P. What that meant was I thought, well, I don't want to be too Larry. I don't want to be too funny. I don't want to be too loud. I don't want to be too ginger, because people won't pick me. And I don't have any clients, so I want people to pick me. Then what I realized that couple years in is that I was hiding all the things that actually did make me choosable. The reasons people loved working with me, I was stuffing them all into my big professional business suit and hiding them away. And when I let go of that, it actually happened when I met another copywriter for lunch in Melbourne, and I had my first website still up that I built myself. And when we met, she didn't recognize me, because how I showed up with my ginger quiff and my tattoos was not how I represented myself on my website. And then during the course of lunch, she said, you are way more fun in real life. I did not expect to have this much fun. Which is not to say I'm the most fun person in the world, but it highlights how different I was showing up in my marketing to how I was showing up in real life. And when I aligned those two, it was a lot more relaxing. I had a lot more fun, but I started getting clients who went, I want I want to sound like you. I love the way you show up in your marketing. You align so closely to the way that I run my business. I want this whole vibe going on for me. And that is those Velcro hooks that you want people to go, we are the same. We have the same things in common. It doesn't have to be a lot of things. Or I like the way you show up and I feel aligned. And that's what happened. And it also became a lot easier. I got busier and it got easier.
Yeah, it also has this great impact of it not only attracts the people who are right for you, it repels the people who are not. So the person who doesn't love those fun-loving aspects of your personality or your approach to creating copy, that's saving you emails or phone calls with clients who wouldn't be right because they can kind of self-select out by going, oh, this isn't the vibe I'm going for. I run a financial services firm and I really want someone who's super serious and very professional. And it really helps communicate who you are and who you want to work with. But it has that nice side effect too of kind of saying to those clients who maybe aren't the right fit, like, hey, it's totally fine if you're not the right fit, but I'm going to give you as much information as possible to make some of that decision before we get too far along in the process and you realize that I'm maybe not the right person for you for this particular project.
100%. And another thing I really had to let go of, which held me back a little in those first, couple of years is I thought in order to have more air quotes, personality, I had to be really over the top. And I didn't feel that's what I was like. But when I just started showing up as myself, it was enough because your vibe attracts your tribe. I love that line from Stu McLaren. And so whatever you're like, show up as you and you will find the right people. You have to kind of trust that. You don't have to be completely over the top in order to do that.
Yeah. And I feel like one of the places that this is very easy to happen is on your website and your LinkedIn profile. And I see freelancers do it when they spend too much of their process of crafting those profiles and that copy by looking at other people. So it's good to do that market research and see what other freelancers are out there. But that's not to say that if you find, that let's say you're a pet industry writer and you find 3 people in your research of 6 different websites that all gear their brand in a very particular way. If that's not you, don't adopt it because it's working for them. I think this used to happen to me when I was a very early writer and I was having success on Upwork. People would copy and paste my profile and plug in their own name and things in there. And it didn't work for them, right? It just didn't get results because it wasn't authentic to them. It wasn't who they were. It wasn't the unique process that, whatever they brought to the table. So I think, do you have any suggestions for someone who wants to be competitive and stand out, but not go down that rabbit hole of, oh, I've seen all these other people and they're doing it successfully in X way, which must mean I should gear my voice and the look and feel of my brand to be X way as well?
This is a really interesting point because I think you have to ask yourself how you work best. I mean, are you the kind of person who likes to follow a roadmap and blueprint? And I'm going to put my hand up here. I do like a good shortcut. I like someone to say, this is what I did and it worked. Yes. And I will give it a go first. And so I want to give people permission to try things out. But if you're a different kind of person and you're like, actually, I hate following the commonly walked path, embrace that as well. But the key is to try things out. A lot of people worry about everyone judging them, and so they don't do anything. But when you're getting started, you're in an incredibly powerful position because no one's listening or watching. And so that's what, when I encourage copywriters, I'm like, start a blog, start doing videos because no one's reading or watching you just yet. And it's the perfect place and time to hone your messaging, practice your voice. And then when you start getting people subscribing to your blog or your videos or following you on social media, your messaging becomes a little more refined because it fits you better. But you got to practice it a lot. I know that whenever I practice introducing myself, like you asked me at the start of this podcast, it's taken me a long time to get it sounding really smooth. And my bio has evolved many times over the years. But you got to practice. You got to put it out there. You got to hit publish and see what sticks. And the more you do that, the more you'll find the bits that fit well with you and click with your audience too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any recommendations around when you're trying something out? How long do you kind of let it exist out there before deciding this is or isn't working? Like, how do you create that data feedback loop where you can say, you know what, I tried this for a while and it either doesn't feel like me or it's not resonating with my clients, just to kind of give people some idea. Because often what I see freelancers do is they'll try something and then they'll leave it that way for a really long time. They know it doesn't work, but they'll be like, well, I've been doing this marketing method or I've been branding under this particular way for 6 months and it's not getting traction. Or is there some other way for us to kind of have a better idea of when to say, hey, I tried that and it didn't work, and not have to wait a super long time to make that decision?
Yeah, this is really good. And I think it comes back to the idea of knowing your numbers, tracking the data, and checking in with yourself. And this is something I've really only embraced, I have to be honest, in the last couple of years of my business. And I've been a copywriter for 12 years now and a copy coach for 5 of those at least. And knowing how much traffic you're getting, what your conversion rate is, your average project value, things like that. And that's just a few of them. You should be checking in with those numbers every month at least, in the same way you should be checking in your financials. And if you're listening and you're like, oh, I hate looking at numbers, I've got 2 hands up here too. This is a muscle you can build, but that's in like every month you can say, I can begin to see a pattern here. And that's when you could make the change. I think at least every quarter you should be doing this kind of analysis. And it doesn't have to be all the things, but just how many leads are you getting? How much traffic are you getting? And that's when you can ask yourself, is this message working? Am I getting the right kind of clients? Because the other thing is, when you make yourself choosable, testimonials are so important, and the kind of stories you tell in your marketing will influence the kind of clients you get. So you can say, my last 3 or 4 clients were exactly the opposite of who I want to work with. So rather than just keep saying yes, I'm going to look at the testimonials that I share in my marketing, where I'm showing up and how I'm showing up. And you need to really make those decisions based on metrics.
Yes, it reminds me of that statement, what gets measured gets managed. And all too often, we make decisions in our businesses based on a feeling. Oh, I don't have enough clients. I don't think that marketing method is working. I don't feel like I'm making enough money, or I don't get enough repeat business. Track things, and you don't have to have it be something really fancy. It can literally just be, like for marketing, a spreadsheet of the pitches you sent and the follow-ups you did and how many of those turned into ideal clients for you or repeat business. But that way you have something to go back to and look at and say, oh, interesting. 8 of my last 10 clients came from LinkedIn. Easy. I can make that decision to laser in on LinkedIn as my marketing method. So don't forget about that opportunity to measure things, and then go back to those numbers, like you're saying, on a monthly basis, and look at those numbers that matter to you and say, okay, what can I learn from this? What things can I take off my to-do list because I tried them and they didn't work and the numbers confirmed that they didn't work? It's a great exercise to help you focus and also let go of some of that pressure of, oh, I need to do all the things, right?
Yes. And also, just because you're doing something doesn't mean you need to keep doing it. It's your business. You're in charge. You're allowed to change your mind. And so just because you published your bio on LinkedIn doesn't mean you can't change it. Don't stick with something that makes you uncomfortable, that doesn't feel aligned, that isn't working just because it's in print on a social media page or on your website for that matter.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you have given me and the listener so much to think about in this episode. And I love the positive nature of this message of you already have a lot of the data and information to use what makes you choosable. You don't have to go out and do a whole other exercise. You probably have a lot of this already. You're just not leaning into it enough. So where can listeners go to learn a little more about you and what you do?
My website is copyrightmatters.com, and that's my business name, Copyright Matters. And there is a ton of free content on there about copywriting, of course. You can also check out my course, the Copywriting Incubator, and my coaching group, Confident Copywriting, if you're a copywriter and you're looking to get a bit more support in your writing and coaching. But if you're there for a mooch, and I love a good freeloader, just go there and check it out, and you'll find lots of ways to help you in your writing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again so much for coming on the show and sharing all of your expertise.
Thanks for having me, Laura. I love talking about this.